Welcome to Sustainable Stock, Shooting the Bull, brought to you by Boss Sires. We're not just pulling back the curtain, we're tearing it down. This is where the cold, hard truths come out about what's gone wrong in the cattle industry and what's still worth fighting for. You'll hear from real cattlemen and trusted voices who've built their operations the right way, the hard way, and are still asking the tough questions. Along the way, we'll give you the tools to do the same. What to look for, what to ask, and what really matters when it comes to sustainable, profitable cattle. No fluff, no filters, just real talk that's long overdue. Here's your host, Patrick Powers.
All right, and welcome back to Shooting the Bull. Today I'm joined by John Atkinson and Grant Vassberg, both of the Boss Sires team. Well, guys, the intro says it all. What do we got today? What's the hot topic?
Doing your homework, John?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we talked about last time, I guess, was doing a bit of that homework before the sale. And you guys have come up with some interesting stuff, I understand.
Yeah, well, there was a sale of note that has happened recently and has encouraged some deeper thought in regards to calving intervals and when you use a word, what is the true definition? Just throwing one out to be wild, the word proven. What is involved with the word proven? What in your mind, when you say proven cattle and you're referring to cattle, what comes to mind, John?
She goes out in the paddock, gets in calf, does it easily, raises a good calf, goes back in calf year after year. I would think anyone with any commercial focus, that is proven.
Okay, and Grant, what would you define proven as?
Same thing. And I guess what the problem is when people throw the word proven around, a lot of people are assuming what John just said. Kind of like I know the big debate on fertility and the heritability of it. A lot of that debate is on the definition of fertility. And going back to what John just said, to a commercial cattleman, you ask him how do you know if a cow's fertile? And he's like, well, how often she gives me a calf. And that's how a common sense way of defining fertility is in regards to females.
Yeah, well, the other side of that is like what's come out of Australia recently, and that Facebook post that we shared among each other is they can be proven by different standards. I mean, John, proven in their mind is once every 2 years. They don't ask too much of their cattle.
The sad part with that was those cattle weren't even being raised on bad nutrition deficient country. They were a seed stock enterprise that raises cattle on pretty good country. They wouldn't have done a lot of hard days in their lives, those cows. And, it was...
Well, before we get too deep into it, John, the listener wasn't privy to the post. So a quick synopsis of the post would be that.
So I guess there was a post recently that a seed stock producer said that, basically outed themselves for their lack of pressure they were putting on fertility. And to me, maybe I am just so far the odd one out in our operation, but it was very much a fact of, if they don't calve every 12 months, it's completely fine. And we just allow that to happen. And, it was really sad, to be honest, because I guess you hold these producers that are big names in high regard, and you expect them to really make their cattle toe the line because they are producing bulls and genetics for really ordinary country. So if they aren't putting the pressure on in that good country and they are making those excuses, it's bloody terrifying what they're doing to the international and commercial world.
And they're still tagging the line proven.
Oh, and then some. They were pretty much openly admitting it and saying it's completely fine. And I think that's essentially a way of them covering their backsides that, for people that live in lesser country, we can't do it in good country, so don't even bother, don't feel bad that you have a 40 or 50% preg rate up there each year. And yeah, it's just sort of a bit mind-boggling and a bit disheartening. But I guess that's unfortunately where the mainstream industry has gotten. It's not about putting pressure on anymore. It's about making excuses that have sort of justify what you're doing.
Yeah. So, Grant, unless you have any more to add to that?
Yes and no. I guess jumping straight into what we were wanting to cover about doing your homework is how a lot of some of these breed associations or societies that the calving records are literally public for a lot of these for certain breeds. And I know it's the same over in Australia. But I guess the reason I was bringing that already up is some of these genetics here in the States or from some of these breeders, these females, if you look up the records, are only having a calf naturally over in 900 plus day calving intervals. So I guess that's what we're trying to get a lot of breeders or producers in these other countries to realize is that, hey, here in the States, in good country, if they're only having a calf every 900 days plus naturally, how do you expect it to be any better somewhere else? So sorry for jumping the gun already, John, but that's literally like, so someone in Honduras, they're like, damn, my cows are only having a calf once every 2 to 3 years. I'm like, well, shit, same shit's going on in Texas with those genetics. So I was like, if that's going on here in Texas, then how can you expect it to be any better in Honduras? Especially in countries like Honduras and the Philippines, there's no feed stores. And that's what a lot of the rest of the world doesn't realize is here in the States, there's a small to large rural feed store in every little town across all over the United States. And that's where I guess a lot of people in the United States, when they hear these accusations or these, not accusations, but these statements that Honduras and the Philippines are at 40% calf crop, what Americans need to realize is there's no feed stores in these other countries.
Yeah.
And having to import grain is way more expensive than here in the States.
Well, to further that point, I learned that through the other podcast interviews that they supplement their inability to import grain with their affordable and readily available labor. And that is truly them going forth and harvesting forage, taking a workload off of cattle that are incapable, and going out and cutting and making silage because people are cheaper than grain, and they're coming back and putting it right in front of this cow just so it can still fall short.
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean that's the sad part, I think, is with social media. I think, a lot of these countries are looking at photos and videos of cows that are, condition score 4. They're all but laying fat down with a calf next to them. They're not showing the creep feeder that calf's getting all the milk from, getting its artificial milk from. I mean, our cows here, most years they're down. I mean, do you guys talk condition scores? Is that a way you talk about 1 to 5?
Yes and no. We do have condition scores, but when you said 4 for us is skinny.
Right.
Body
So
condition.
a
Yeah, 4 and
two's like
5 is
pretty
working
fat.
close. 2 is fat.
Is that what you're saying? Like a one is really fat?
No, 8 is obese.
Right. So 1 to 8.
It's something like that, but I know like body condition score of like a 4 or 5 is those are healthy working clothes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our cows, when their calves are pulled off them at between 6 and 8 months old, those cows are on the lower end of what's considered probably good working condition. And I mean,
Sure.
if you've got genetics in your cattle, whether it's through your own pressure, whatever you brought other genetics in, those cows can still get down to that level because they're giving the milk to the calf. They've got 3 or 4 months then to put the condition. If they're good converters and good doers, they'll pick up condition before they calve. All the hormones inside them are working to help them get in condition quicker. And they'll get back up to that good condition score, I'm guessing sort of top end of a 5 on your scale, before they then drop another calf.
I think a lot of this language that we're talking about boils down to honesty in the industry and the need for it.
Yeah.
I think we could really make a lot of headroom and gain a lot of ground if we could bring a sense of honesty and integrity back to if we only encountered it in the marketing strategies alone. If people were more forward, I mean, as much as we talked about it for a moment there, the one person and lowering their expectations of cattle. If I lower my expectations and my cattle only do that, then hey, they exceeded. I think we could better the buyer if we were more honest, and the fact that we've lowered our expectations and so should you, or at least that's the message I feel they're sending.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to a Brazilian fellow in the last hour or so, and he was explaining to me about a stud that he'd been talking to over here and how they've told them, basically that, hold up, that's my child yelling at me. I'll get back to that point. Keep going, you guys.
Yeah, Patrick. You're talking about transparency. Is a lot of people couldn't believe what's going on with some of these stud breeders. But I know, like in my breed alone, there's a couple breeders that come to mind, but they literally accepted it as normal that every animal on their ranch, these are pregnant cows, open cows, what be it, that each one receives 15 pounds of grain every day, 365 days a year.
Really?
Yes, and then there's another breeder I didn't hear directly from him, but a good friend of mine was visiting his operation, and that breeder is feeding 30 pounds of grain per animal per day. And then those genetics get sent to Panama or Thailand, and where there's no feed stores. And then these people in these other countries are then confused on why their animal goes to shit, or they buy semen from these animals or embryos, and then what they're left with or create, it looks nothing like the parent or the donor animal.
Yeah. Well, Grant, I know that we talk about how these cattle fall short, but I was also wondering. We'll round back to John when he rejoins us. If we could
Sure.
talk about the money and the implications behind it as well. We always talk about the misconceptions with capability and how assumptions are made. But when you tie values along that as well, we talk about how these misleading marketing has led these genetics outside of their country of origin, and they've gone to these places that aren't as well supported with grain and infrastructure, and then they fail at that place. Let's talk about the costs associated with that, not the losses, but how we arrive at these numbers. So are these falsely inflated numbers so they look as if they're an added value to then fall on the main stage? I mean, the fastest, if you want to make $100, you can either sell one thing for $100 or 100 things for $1. Well, the fastest way to be able to sell one thing for $100 is to act like there's hype behind the one thing for 100. Are you following my logic?
Sure. I mean, if you're diving into the marketing schemes, that's I know. I mean, hell, we can dive into that topic on John and I could talk about semen alone.
Yeah, I would love to.
But I know with semen, it's like hitting my head against the wall. But if someone's newer to the cattle industry or newer to the games, if there's a catalog and one bull is priced for $25 a straw, and another one's priced at $5,000 a straw, which one do you think is going to be the better bull? And do you really blame that poor guy in Costa Rica or wherever, whatever country, drop a country name, but is it really that guy's fault for assuming that $5,000 straw bull is better? Which I know, going back into the behind the scenes or pulling the curtain down, that what people don't realize is when a bull is getting collected, the more fertile the bull is, the more semen he produces. So the more fertile bulls actually have a lower cost per straw. And so some of these infertile bulls, they'll go get collected, get sent to a collection facility, be there for 5 months, 5, 6 months, whatever it be, and make 30 straws. Well, shit, their cost per straw is astronomically higher than you send a boss sire type bull in, and that bull cranks out 300 straws in one jump. So your cost per straw is significantly lower. So I guess fast forwarding, or not fast forwarding, but full circle, that breeder that's selling that straw for $5,000 a straw, it's like, well, shit, he needs to sell it for a lot of money to recoup his money. So that's just like a little dirty secret behind the game.
Okay, and what are some of these tools that that guy in that situation would utilize to be able to create a provenance or a marketplace at that level? Are you allowed to just say, "Well, this is a $50,000 bull, so his straws are worth $5,000 a piece," or do you have to play the game in some other direction to be able to reach that level?
What Grant said before, I mean, to me, there's even more on top of that. It's not only are those bulls bad donors, so therefore their cost of production is 5 times what or 10 times what a fertile bull is, but they're probably coming from studs. That bull's probably been shown. He's won a few show ribbons, and they've got an artificial value on him already. And there's this misconception that the value and the price are the same thing. That the price on that bull semen equates to the value of his genetics. And I mean, it's I think we've talked about it before. It's a normal idea. You go and you see a price on a car that's underneath a rug and it's $200,000, and you say, well, that's a lot better car than that one underneath the rug over there that's only $20,000. I mean, you don't know. It could be a secondhand Ferrari underneath a $20,000 one.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's these marketing tricks and misconceptions that, to those, whether you don't speak the language, you don't know the industry, whatever it is, that's what grabs. I mean, everyone goes and you all see the dearest watch in the shop, and that's the one you want when you can afford it because it's the most expensive. It
Yeah.
mightn't be the most useful. It mightn't be the right one to go swimming with. You want to go spearfishing, you don't wear the expensive Rolex.
Well, and let's not forget to note too that this value added are awards in a false environment.
Yeah.
I mean, the standard bull doesn't encounter a sawdust floor that often, does it?
No, no. I mean, I saw only today, I saw a post from a very well-known stud, and they were selling semen on this bull that they were talking about, and the only things they had as marketing ploys for him was his show ribbon class winnings and his size class winnings. I thought, that's all well and good, but why would anyone buy semen out of that? Not once did you talk about his structure, his ability to move, his mother's udder, her fertility. Why would you go and buy semen because he's a class winner?
Or separate the market. Quit acting like they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Have your world and we'll have ours. Quit
Uh,
influencing mine.
well, it's like club carbs. I mean, club carbs are a specialized breed of their own purely for show steer world. That really doesn't come into the conventional world in any great fashion.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, that's where a lot of show cattle have gotten to the point now where they're effectively a different colored club calf. They have no relevance and really shouldn't be impacting the greater commercial world.
John, I do want to touch on that in a second too, because I know some of the pushback Boss Sires has had is, hey, the show world is different than the commercial world, and there's no interlap, or there's no or the two don't overlap, and that is something we're trying to get the commercial cattlemen to realize is, hey, these show genetics, yeah, maybe your big commercial guy's not buying semen out of the Grand Champion, but those show genetics are at ranches. Those ranches are reproducing that shit, and then they're selling their offspring at the sale barns or wherever it be, and those end up going into commercial operations eventually. So there is a trickle down effect that your commercial cattle out there, these big ranches in Texas, they're not the same genetic pool that they used to be 30 years ago or 40 years ago.
Well, when 85% of the cattle market is at hobby level within the United States, you
Sure.
can't claim that that would not have an influence on the remaining 15%.
Exactly. And those statistics might apply to y'all, John, but here in the States, we are trying to get the commercial cattlemen to realize, like, no, this is, hey, every time you got a 5-year-old cow that comes up open, or a 5-year-old cow whose udders blow out on her third calf, that goes back to the breeders somewhere in that lineage.
Are y'all similarly affected, John? John, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, that's what you and I talked about in the last podcast, Patrick. That's what breaks my heart when these people go and spend a fortune on females or bulls, but females are the ones you know, because they go and buy the $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 heifer. And then her first calf, they're so stoked. They're putting photos all over Facebook. Oh, this is a heifer I went and spent a fortune on. And I mean, you look at it and you go, Christ, she's already got a detached udder, and this is her first calf. You know, I mean, she should be culled immediately into keep her. Don't cut her head off. Just put her in a steer and cull heifer breeding paddock. Never keep breeding stock out of her. I mean, I don't expect anyone to just cut their heads off, but you should never be selling breeding stock out of that animal. Just put it in a terminal herd, whatever you want. If you think you can get calves out of her, I mean, within a few years, if she's got a detached udder that early, that udder will be dragging in the grass seeds by the time it's on its third calf. Anyway, if it has 3 calves.
Well, I would like to ask y'all, I mentioned earlier keeping our own lanes. So the concept of terminal cattle and terminal traits was introduced to me a week or two ago. And I just thought cattle were cattle. And I didn't realize that some were bred with the intention, full intention of not furthering their genetics, but of just meeting slaughter quotas or whatever. So could we not divide these lanes? Let these type of genetics quit influencing here. Let these type quit influencing here. Is that an achievable goal, or do you feel like we need to correct the entirety of cattle and then subdivide?
Oh, I don't think you're ever going to be able to.
Too great a
I know it. Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to be able to correct the entirety. And the idea is not about, I guess, correcting. It's about trying to educate the buyer a bit so that they actually know what they're buying and know what they're getting. So they're not getting a surprise in 9 months' time or 12 months' time when it comes time to look at a 3-month-old calf and you're going, you've either had a heap of dead cows because the calves are massive, or the daughters have got buggered udders. I mean, there shouldn't, if there are major production faults in an animal, udder, birthing, any of the basics, that animal just shouldn't be kept. It shouldn't be kept for terminal. It shouldn't be kept for anything. I mean, you can terminal anything you want. I mean, we used to always have a terminal paddock where if a cow had a fly mark on her skin or whatever it was, she was a bit weak in the back. I mean, we just used to have a paddock that we'd put aside. They were still bred to normal bulls, but we just cut and culled every calf out of that paddock. Castrated every bull calf, put a red tag, which was, I mean, the way we manage is just with commercial herds with tag colours, and it's very easy. You select them at branding, put a colour in your bull calves, a colour in your steer calves, different colour in your keeper commercial and your cull heifers.
Okay.
I guess, Patrick, if you're getting at the maternal and terminal bulls or genetics,
Yeah.
I think what the commercial cattlemen need to realize here in the States is, if you own cows and you're selling calves at the sale barn or selling calves at weaning, and if you're not retaining ownership all the way to kill, why would you use a terminal bull? And what people don't realize is maternal genetics, another way to classify them is your grass efficient genetics. Or maternal genetics are, hey, they're bred for fertility, but they're also efficient on forage. So I've actually seen it that people will use my bulls when I'm a quote unquote maternal breeder, and their weaning weights actually go up because they're cow calf guys and they're not show breeders or they're not able to supplemental feed their calves and all you can eat buffet every day, 365 days a year. So by using maternal genetics, their weaning weights actually go up because the calves out of these type of genetics are actually just more efficient overall, and that without supplemental feed, they're actually happy and fat. And if you use that terminal, these quote unquote terminal genetics in a real world condition, they're not able to thrive, and the actual real weaning weights actually drop. So it's by convincing guys, oh, you need to use a terminal bull to increase your weaning weights. That's actually a fallacy, or it's not true if you're not pouring the damn feed into these things. Because I think we've gone the concept of terminal bulls. Hey, let's top the scales on weaning weights. People don't realize we've gone past that. We've gone past the point of the real world, and so a lot of terminal genetics have just gone. They're just not practical anymore for, I guess, unless you're the guy that's retaining ownership all the way to kill. Or I guess sorry for going down that little tunnel there.
No, I think that's a fair point, and I'm glad you've offered that perspective on it. That note there about the retention of ownership there completely shifted my line of thinking in regards to terminal traits and terminal bulls. You make an excellent point there.
Sure. Well, I guess full circle, bringing it back to the international game, or not game, but the international cattle industry is the sales pitches of, hey, a guy in Honduras or a guy in Mexico, hey, you want to increase how much money you make? Well, you need to use these genetics that are in the top 1% of the breed for weaning weight. And they don't realize the inputs it takes to achieve that. And you take those inputs away, bam, you're in a train wreck. So then they're being told it's your fault, you didn't offer the nutrition, and they're like, well, damn, I didn't know using these genetics I was gonna have to feed this damn calf every day, or have to put a damn Jersey cow to help it get to those marketed weights that they're led to believe that they were going to be able to attain.
Yeah, you bought the vehicle and you bought the premium vehicle thinking it would withstand greater, and then you find your warranty is null and void because you didn't use the dealer oil change and the absolutely perfect tires that were $600 more, and all this additional cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I tried to get it going before, but my mind can't help but go to the money of this. I mean, we can talk about these traits and everything, and I know it may benefit the listener at a greater level than me, but I keep going back to how do you manage to take what looks to be the same cow as the guy next door and create I think the word of the illusion that yours is worth 50 grand versus the 3,500 that the sale barn would give you. How do we get there other than show ribbons and all this? Does lineage alone, is it, I probably worded all that poorly.
No, it's all marketing spin. That's all it is. It's a budget that allows you to shovel a heap of feed down their throat and then be able to get the photos, do the glossy catalog, put the marketing out there. I mean, it's a fake it till you make it type thing, and essentially you can do that to any beast if you're prepared to put the feed into them. I mean, you walk into a feedlot now, it's amazing how good those cattle look after 100 days on feed compared to when they went in there. You wouldn't give a pinch for a lot of them when they go in there.
Well, and some of these guys can also afford every new test that comes out that proves that you're topping the charts.
Yeah, but a lot of them also dodge a lot of those tests because they don't want to be compared with anyone else. They like the fact that they have a controlled environment, that they can market it the way they want. They're not compared on a level peg with anyone else. And yeah, you can say this is the world's greatest if it's standing out there on its own with no one standing next to it. You can say I'm the tallest man in the world if you're standing in the middle of a field on your own. You know, that's probably what frustrates me the most is it's the spin and the rubbish terminology that people are using and getting away with. And I mean, there's been studs over here that have essentially made up their own grading system and figures and data that's just smack. But, again, it's the old adage, if you can't blind them with brilliance, you baffle them with bullshit, and that seems to work.
I guess John or Patrick too, that I've been trying to tell people that when it comes to the cattle industry, it's literally the Wild West. There's no accountability whatsoever. You can make any bullshit claim you want, and there's no repercussions whatsoever. And I know within my breed alone, people have been caught cheating just time and time again, and nothing happens. So and so got caught doing plastic surgery on their females, and so got caught backdating animals, and nothing happens.
Well,
And the bastard just keeps going on and on and on. And but I know talking to guys like Hayden Moore, and I know hopefully he doesn't get mad at me, but I know talking to him, he'll be like, "Hey, turn your recorder off," and then he'll drop stories that this bullshit's been going on for 50 years, 60 years, and nothing ever happens.
Okay, well, without naming any more names, give me a story.
Sure.
What are some of the methods to the madness? What are they doing behind the scenes?
I'll go one for you.
Thanks for tuning in to Shooting the Bull. What you just heard was only a glimpse of the full conversation, and there's a lot more where that came from. For the full episodes, deeper conversations, and real cattleman talk with no filter, join us over on Patreon. Question the noise, trust the land, and don't breed nonsense.